This is Scott Bakula, and you're listening to the Quantum Leap Podcast.
Hello, Leapers, and welcome back to the Quantum Leap Podcast. I'm Albie, and I have my friends here with me today. We have Christopher.
Hi.
John Irons.
Hello.
And Suzanne Smiley.
Hey.
And these are my friends that just happened to go see Scott Bakula live. His Quantum Leap fan Q&A after the Connector, the live performance of the Connector. I wasn't able to go yet because of prior contractual obligations. So my friends are here to tell me all about their evening and what they thought of the Connector and what else they did that day. So I just want to know everything because I don't know that much. I'll start with you, Chris. Tell me about the time in New York City seeing Scott Bakula live at the Connector.
Scott who? I got to see John Irons live at the Connector.
That is true.
So
we posed for a picture. I signed a thing. It was really cool. Love meeting the fans.
I'm gonna have it framed. So so this came about as I don't know if everybody knows the backstory, but JD Schwartz, who is Scott's longtime publicist, contacted you, Albie, about coming to this show. The whole reason for us being invited in the first place was because this was a show specifically for the Leapers. So not only was it a matinee performance of The Connector, the new show that Scott is singing and acting and dancing in, it's terrific, by the way. But they had a Q&A after the performance with JD and Scott. And Scott was talking to the fans, and then he had a meet and greet after that where he was signing stuff and taking pictures and just the whole Megillah. It was almost like being at a con. It was like a Broadway show, a panel, and then a meet and greet. It was something else. So that was the whole reason why we originally were invited to go, was to sort of promote that, help promote the Connector. And then it was going to be you and me, Albie. You were going to come, but you had a conflict, and we were figuring out, what are we going to do? Here's the first thing. The second you said, I can't come, I was deer in the headlights, because okay, I'm going to go, but you guys are expecting me to record this. I have a Galaxy S9, and to me, it's my new phone. So, I mean, I don't know how I'm going to record it. I don't know what the setup is over there. And, being from a broadcast background, I'm like, I got to figure out, maybe I can rent a rig. Maybe I can do something like hook into the theater system, whatever. But that was sort of besides the point. I said, okay, I'll just have to go on the fly and figure out what I'm going to do. But, we have all these extra seats, because not only were you and I going to see the show with Scott, but since you were going to be in the city, we were going to go see Back to the Future, the musical, as well. And those were seats that you couldn't take back. You couldn't exchange. So I was like, what are we going to do? And I had a thought, and I said, you know what, John Irons, John might want to come. He's close enough. And so I contacted you, John, out of the blue. What, we turned this around in about an hour and 45 minutes. It was from, do you want to do this, to
Yeah, it was like, do you think you can get up here? I was like, I mean, I guess technically, I suppose I could. Like the biggest issue would be if I had that was a weekend that I didn't have the kids, so I was clear on that front. Do I have any other plans? Not really. But even if I had any other plans, what other plan is going to compare to a random trip, to a random last minute trip to New York to meet legit, a very good friend, Chris, even though I never actually met my good friend Chris, to go see Scott Bakula in a play and Back to the Future, the musical. Just no, I don't care what my other plans were. The only thing that might have stopped me is if I had the kids, and even then, honestly, I would have worked it out with the ex. I'm like, you know what, we need to trade a weekend. I'll take an extra night. That's no problem.
You got to share your secret with me, John.
I don't want to jinx it. We're in an okay place right now. A month ago or a month from now, it might have been a different story. We're okay right now. So he reached out. I was like, "Do you think you can make it up here?" I was like, "Yeah, I think I could. Let me let me move some things around. I can. So yeah. So and then the question was, okay, am I going to drive? Am I going to spend the night? If I spend the night, I'm gonna stay with Chris. If I don't spend the night, am I driving back, like, or am I taking the train? So, but again, all of this was kind of, the how was tertiary to the yes. So but I will say that Mr. DeFilippis was the consummate host. He met me on the train. We did the European kiss. I'm kidding, we didn't.
No, it was full on tongue.
If I had thought of it,
I only got a hug. I only got a hug. In Texas.
If I had thought of it, I really would have done like the little, but it didn't even occur to me. So yeah, so we met at the train, and because he said, yeah, so when you come up, let's bring up, if you happen to have any kind of recording equipment, like portable stuff, bring that. I was like, sure. So and I ended up taking the train. So he met me at Penn Station, and I had my laptop, and I had like this gallon Ziploc bag of random mics and like cords and like hubs and whatnot. I don't think I ended up using any of it, actually. Like we recorded it with my phone and my laptop. I guess I connected.
You did connect one of the mics.
Yeah, I connected the mic that I'm using
speaker.
now, actually. The mic that I normally podcast with. I used that in the laptop. But, all the rest of that bag, I could have just left it home.
And a delightful bonus to all of this was when we knew that we were going, when I knew that I was going, Suzanne reached out to me because she was going. So she's just like, I'm going to be there too. So let's meet up. And I'm like, yeah, certainly, of course. Because Suzanne, before this, you and I hadn't met either, but we hosted together on one of the iterations of A Little Miracle. Yeah. So, I mean, wow, how did you come about this? Like, did you just hear about the show online or?
Yeah, when I first found out about it, it was probably like back in, I think October, like when they first mentioned it, and I was like, well, I'm going. Like, I live only like an hour and a half, 2 hours by train, and I was like, I know I'm going. And I really, really, really wanted my best like Scott Bakula fan friend to come with me, but she lives in Tennessee, and I already knew that she had health problems. She's actually getting over, she had cancer over the summer, and so like yeah, so she was feeling better, and it was still kind of touch and go, but we were like, okay, look, we're gonna do this. She finally was like, I'm going to do this. We're going to do this. Like, we bought the plane tickets. Like, we're doing this. And it was a real roller coaster of a ride, because at the time, like when we weren't sure we were going to go, Albie's like, well, I'm going. And I'm like, okay, well, like maybe if she can't go, maybe like, Albie's like, I have a friend who can maybe take the extra ticket. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. Like, we will have fun. Like you, me, and Chris, like we'll go. And like, and Albie's like, well, Chris and I got these tickets for Back to the Future. And like, you want to come? Like, we'll all go together and like, we'll have this great time. And I'm thinking like, yeah, but if I get these tickets, then I'm kind of like deciding that like my friend is definitely not coming with us. So like, I kind of held off on the tickets, and hoping that my friend would like come through at the last minute, and then like she did it, and then like I forget when it was, but it was like right after Christmas. We were excited for about a week. We had the plane tickets and everything, and then she got the flu, and then it turned into pneumonia, and then it was like she's like, I'm not gonna be able to do it. And then I was like, okay, well, that's fine. Like, we'll still have fun. I'm like, Albie, you, me, and Chris, we're still gonna have fun. Like, we're and then Albie's like, I'm not going. And I was like, okay, so now my friend Jesse's not going, Albie's not going, and I'm like, so I'm like, okay, well, I was still holding out hope that maybe my friend would get over the flu. No, the flu turned into pneumonia, and like she was like sick for a whole month, and so I was like, okay. So then my BFF forever, like for like past 20 years, Ray, he said, look, I'll go with you, like, and and I felt really good about him saying he'd come, because like we've gone to New York many times. He was the first person that ever like took me to New York. And he has like a really good sense of direction. So I was like, I'll never get lost if he's with me. So he, said he'd go, and I was like, okay, good. This is great. So at least I know I have someone to take the other ticket to that show. So I tell Chris, like it was like the night before, and I said, look, I have a friend. We're definitely going. Let me know. I actually reached out to both Chris and Albie and said, let me know if you need any help. I actually I just gotten this brand new Google Pixel camera for Christmas, and part of the reason why I had decided to keep it was because I figured it would be great for recording this Q&A that we are going to be going to. So that was a large part of why I had chosen it. So we I reached out to both Chris and Albie and said, hey, I'm going, and like if you need me to help out with that, you need me to record it or whatever. And they both said, great. Albie said, reach out to Chris. Chris said, hey, that's awesome. And by the way, I have an extra ticket to the Back to the Future musical. And so I was like, well, I have my friend that's coming with me, and I was thinking like, I don't know how we're gonna like do this if now I have another person coming, and I don't know how I'm gonna. So I just decided, for the heck of it, just to see what tickets were available, and it just so happened that like that whole row right next to the tickets that were already purchased was empty at the time. So I told my friend, I was like, hey, would you like to go see Back to the Future? He's like, sure. So we just went ahead and bought the tickets like the night before, and then all like went up to New York, and just took the train in the morning, got there, walked through Times Square, actually passed the Back to the Future theater on the way, and just kind of like made our way, got to the theater pretty much right on time. And first person I saw pretty much when I got there, because it's a huge line, a huge throng of people. When we walk in the door, I turn around, there's Chris. And I'm like, Chris! And he's like, Suzanne! And he gives me this huge hug. And it was just awesome.
So that was 2 hugs I had, and the full-on French kiss with John. But no, it was great, because I had not been to the city in the daytime in quite a while. I usually go in the evenings, and this is a theater that is on the west side. So you came up through Times Square, you passed the Winter Garden Theater where Back to the Future is. This is the MCC Theater. It is in Hell's Kitchen in the West 50s. So you got, I think it's like 53rd and 10th. So John and I took the subway up to Columbus Circle, and then we made our way back down 8th Avenue. And, it was really easy to find. And the funny thing was, it has has a stage door entrance and a regular entrance, so we didn't know which was which. So John and I, we found the theater, we found the atrium where we're supposed to be, and I said, I think the entrance is that way, and he said, no, I think it's this way. I said, well, let me go my way. Let's see. And and here's the funny thing. John was right. The entrance was on the other side, but we went around and it was the stage door, and standing in front of the stage door is someone that I've met on Long Island, at least twice. He used to come to Icon, which was the science fiction convention in Stony Brook, a lot, and Li Who, which was, or Li Geek, which turned into Li Who, which was a smaller con that happened after Stony Brook's Icon disbanded. His name is Edwin Thrower. And Albie, I don't know if you remember this. We had Edwin on an episode of 11/22/63. He was a guest host, and he didn't know that the Skipper and I treatment were. He was just like, his wife said, "You're going to be on what, a podcast?" And he said, "Yeah, it should take me about 20 minutes, a half an hour." Of course, it was a 4-hour show. And so I'm walking, and I just see this guy looking at his phone, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, Edwin. And he looks up and he goes, "Oh my God, Chris!" Like, he recognized me right away. He was waiting by the stage door to see Scott. And he had some stuff, because I guess that's what he does. Edwin is like super fan. Like, he goes to everything that he can. He knows the ins and outs, how to find the people and how to meet them and how to see them. So he told me he'd been waiting there since what's it had to be about 1 o'clock at this point, John.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
yeah. And he said that he had been waiting there since 11:30.
Yeah.
You know, so we touched base with him. I told him that I would go around the front because I had to go see Jay. I had to find Jay and sell, you know, and the people, the PR firm that was representing the theater. Also, I needed to touch base with them to get the tickets and to ask them about recording, because, again, to reiterate, we were there ostensibly to record this thing to help promote the show. And between us, we have like 3 busted phones, half a mic, a couple of tripods, and who knows what. So I'm like praying that when I get to the front of the theater, I can find the PR reps and I can say, "Hey, it would be amazing if we could just jack into the sound system for the theater. I know that if Scott and Jay are going to be mic'd, it's got to go through a board somewhere. There's got to be a way that I can pick it up." And they were just like, no, we're not recording it. You can't. I was like, all right. So what do we do? But they were very courteous. I'll tell you that. So just, I'm kind of skipping, but so we go around the front. That's where I met Suzanne. And it was amazing to me how quickly it happened, because I expected to have to sort of look around or whatever, but just like this congruence of fandom and GTFW, it brought us all together at the exact same moment. It was so weird, because not only was Suzanne right there, but Karen was there as well. Karen Saxon, who I had also been going back and forth with. She said that she was coming. She'd had been, I don't know that she's ever contributed to the QLP, but she's a longtime fan. And I've spoken to her a number of times over the years. She's responded to some of the shows that we've done and stuff like that. And she was standing right outside too. So it was really just a nice little small gathering of friends, as much as it was this big event to see Scott. So I get into the theater, and JD is like right there, and he's impossible to miss if you know what he looks like. And, you know, he's standing next to a nice gentleman in a blazer. And I asked the guy, first I said hi to Jay, and I asked the guy, I said, "Okay, we're here to record." He said, "Well, you have to ask the PR people." I said, "Oh, you're not with the PR people?" He said, "No, I'm with the theater." I said, "Okay." So I said, "Where?" He said, "They're going to be over there where the ticket window is." So I get up, and there's this woman who I don't remember her name, but she had the tickets, and I told her who I was, and she gave me the tickets, and she said, "All right, enjoy the show." And I said, "Well, wait a minute. I mean, we're here to record the performance, the Q&A, not the performance." And she said, "Oh, I don't know if you can do that." I said, "What?" I said, that's we're again, ostensibly, that's the entire reason we're here. And I mean, that's why they invited us. So, "Oh yeah, I don't know. I have to check with with my manager, whatever." But I'll have to clear that. I was just like, "All right." So what do I, so I'm sitting and like, what, is this going to turn out to be a nice day in the city? I don't know. But they did finally get their heads together, and they said, yeah. And then Jay came over and he said, "Yeah, they're with the Quantum Leap podcast." And I did ask them, and yeah, please just give them what accommodation you can, make what accommodation you can for them. So that's when I asked about the board, and they were like, "No, we can't get you that kind of access." And I was like, all right. So John and I get into the theater, and now it's like guerrilla, like my TV producer days are coming back. I'm getting the lay of the theater. I'm looking where the speakers are. I'm looking where we could stand in an unobtrusive
It was very impressive to watch him.
But just so that we could figure out where we could stand and not block anybody, but also do what we had to do, And they wanted to shove us sort of back by the door where you came in on a little stool, but like right behind us, there's an upper level. And there was this table, like just this empty table, like a folding table, right under a speaker with an unobstructed view of the stage. The second I saw it, I said, "That's there." So the guy says, "Okay, here's the stool. You can put this thing on the stool and you have it." I said, "No, there's a table up there." he's like, okay, well, we'll see. And I'm just like, oh, okay, you know what? At this point, I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to watch the show. And then we'll see what happens with the Q&A, you know? So, I mean, here's the other funny thing, Albie.
Yeah.
Because we only had the 2 seats, right? And you and Rennie were going to take those 2 seats. So I purchased my own ticket. So I not only had the press tickets, I had my own ticket. And we were carrying a bunch of stuff. And as I told John, when we were planning all this out, I said, what are you bringing? And he's like, well, what are you bringing? And I said, I bring as little as possible. Like if I go to the city and I have more than my money clip and my key fob, I get aggravated. Like I don't want to carry anything. And so I was just like, we had the stuff and I had the thing to sign and we had, and the seat that I bought was 1 row ahead and 1 seat over from where I was sitting. So there was just right there in the middle. And I leaned over, I pushed it down. I put my coat on there. I put my bag on there. I put everything that we had. I put it on there. And the lady next to me, like next to the seat, she's like, what are you doing? I said, well, technically this is my seat. I bought it, but I'm not going to be sitting in it. She said, oh, really? Can I put my coat there? I was like, sure. The more the merrier. So all of our stuff had a seat as well. But so I was glad that was like serendipitous, you know? So, and from that point, I mean, that's all the preamble. The show started about 15 minutes after that. Now, I think we should all, we should all react to that. I mean, I've been talking a lot, but why don't we get some reviews of the show and like how it unfolded and what did you guys think?
It was amazing. It was amazing. I mean, like I was going there for Scott Bakula regardless. And I mean, you know, I've seen a lot of really good stuff that he's been in. I've seen a lot of stuff that he's been in, and I can always find something good to say about it, no matter what it is. But I don't think I was prepared to be as blown away by it as I was. I mean, the music, the acting, the everything. I was so just like excited, and you could see just the people around me. I mean, they were like dancing in their seats. It was just like so just energizing. It. I don't want to get like jump too far ahead, but the information just was announced, I think today or maybe yesterday, that there's going to be a soundtrack album. And when somebody had asked that during the Q&A, and Scott was like, well, I can't really say, but I can't really not say, basically. And like everybody cheered, like we kind of knew that sounded like that was going to happen. And I'm so excited about that because like I want to listen to the music over and over and over again. If I can't see it again, I definitely want to listen to it again. And Scott was in it. I mean, he was on stage like, I don't know, 75% of the time. I'd say, and even if he wasn't saying something, he was there. And I was in the second row. So like it was like everything was like right there, like right in front of your face. So it was pretty amazing. And I mean, if I have a chance to go again before it ends, I would. I'm just not sure if I'll get a chance to, but I loved every minute of it. And I mean, and like the lead actor and actress, like I thought that they like the scenes that they were together, like they were strong, powerful, even I'd say adorable together. Like just like everything was just, I don't know. It was just amazing. I loved it.
I agree with all of that. It was fantastic. So when I knew we were coming to see the play, I'm an optimistic person, but I've also been to a lot of plays. I was my big worry wasn't that Scott wasn't going to be good. I wasn't worried about Scott being good. My worry was that the play was going to be okay or mediocre, and not that we're doing press for them, but I wouldn't want to be like, I wouldn't want to have to lie. Frankly, I wouldn't want to have to embellish. Well, like if the play was meh, I was like, well, it's pretty good, and I like this and I like this, but overall, no, I can. That's why I'm not really good at showbiz, because I'm not good at lying like that. But no, I can completely, wholeheartedly, honestly say it was an amazing play. It was really, really, really good. I would not be surprised that Tony nominations good for this play. I was like, and it's so smart. It's so smart. Like the music is great and the acting is phenomenal. Like, it pulls you through every emotion. And it's also it's tough to review it without spoiling anything. But it's like earlier today, even or yesterday, I realized, no pun intended, a connection that the play did, and we can talk about it after we finish recording. I realized something that it did, and Albie, I guess you'll have to mute me, but I realized something that the play did that was so meta, I didn't even realize it until like a few hours ago. It was absolutely intentional. It was really, 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 really good.
And the fact that you're still thinking about it at that level too, right? It's just it's still lingering with you at that level where you're having a revelation about it 2.5 weeks later.
It is, and like the songs. It was the kind of musical that I enjoy more, in that the songs were really integrated into the story. It wasn't like, so here's this woman, and then there's a song about her hopes and dreams, and then and here's this town, and then there's a song about the songs in this musical were just dialogue set to music. Be it internal or external, it was dialogue. It absolutely moved the story forward, every single one of them. And there was such a variety of music too. Like that's the other thing that annoys me about some musicals. It's like it's the same kind of song, but this had a huge swath of genre, and it all was appropriate to the scene and to the characters. It was chef's kiss. Great.
Now, Chris, longtime listeners, viewers of all of our shows that we do would really know that you're an opera guy, but I'm a Broadway musical guy. I love musicals, every musicals, the good ones, the bad ones. I enjoy them all.
Because you have no taste.
So when I heard Scott Bakula and musical, I was like, oh, I want to go so bad, but it's a big thing. And then then JD Schwartz called me and he said, hey, you want tickets? And I was like, the universe is telling me just do it and go. Right. So I was like, how could I not, with all these things combined? So I was like, okay, gonna do it. Unfortunately, it didn't work out the first time. But so you're not a musical guy. So no. when I said I'm going, I want you to go with us, and this is what we're going to do. And I made the plan for us, and I ended up having to back out, unfortunately. But you're not a musical guy. So going into this musical, of course, Scott Bakula, so you'd probably go either way. But going into a musical, not being a musical guy, what did you think of The Connector?
I go with an open mind because I enjoy live theater regardless. And I have seen musicals that I've enjoyed. What gave me hope when I first walked in was that the theater was much more intimate than a lot of the bigger things that I've been to. So that told me right there it was going to be a bit of a different vibe. It wasn't going to be big Broadway. It was going to be more of a theater experience than it was going to be a musical experience. And I just got that just from the size of the venue and the way the stage was set up. And then I noticed as we were waiting for the show to start that I'm hearing the band tune up And I'm used to seeing the orchestra at the Met in the pit right in front of the stage. And, them all tuning their instruments and everything. I'm like, where is this band? Where are they tuning up? And it turns out they're on a platform behind the stage, like behind the set. And there are some holes in the set that, because it had a neat sort of backdrop.
I was going to say, do you want to? I feel like you can probably describe that without it being too spoilery, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, basically, because we haven't really discussed anything about the play. The play takes place at a fictional magazine called The Connector. And it's about a young kid who works his way into the good graces of the old-time editor of The Connector. Scott is the editor. At one time, Scott was that protege for the magazine's founder. And at this point now, he's sort of wrapping up his career, and The Connector is like this iconic magazine. And this kid has wanted to do nothing but work at that magazine. And it's how he comes in and he works his way into the magazine and is kind of a sensation. And it has different numbers about like the different members of the staff and just the whole, like the whole journalistic process and bigger questions of journalism and ethics. And that sounds boring. And so, but as a journalist, like to me, I kind of know that stuff. But anyway, the set was set up so it was all like different pages from the magazine, all in the background. And through some gaps in that, you could see the band was actually behind the stage on a catwalk up above, playing all the numbers live as the cast was moving around the stage. Now, to speak to what John said about this, and to speak, Albie, what you said, I don't like musicals. And I can't stand, especially when they stop everything, they go into a big annoying number that goes on for too long. This is not that. This is completely different because it's dialogue that all of a sudden is set to music with a tempo. And then they start moving around stage in choreography with the dialogue going and the music accompanying it. Sometimes someone will stop and just say something and talk, and then the song goes on. And it is just this synthesis of all of these aspects coming together and gelling into this unique experience, unlike anything I've ever seen before. Now, I don't have a lot of musical theater experience, but if I was going to see musical theater, this is the play I want to see. This was, even if you don't like me, don't like, oh God, I got to go to a musical, kill me now. I'll go see this play again. I'll even buy the soundtrack, because the music itself is also very contemporary. It's jazzy, it's swingy, it's funky. It's like really, it's upbeat. It's not Broadway. It's much more subtle. And I don't know how, I'm not a music critic, so I'm just going to say words, but I really think that, again, even if you're not a musical person, you still like music. This is more like seeing music, not a musical. I don't know if that's a distinction that means anything to anybody, but it sure does to me.
That's good. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So, and on top of that, the smart script, on top of that, the great performances in this play. And you got to get there quick, because I think she's only going to be there until the original run was going to end in March. The lead actress in it.
It was March 3rd.
March 3rd. Yeah, her name is Hannah Cruz, and she apparently was in the production of Hamilton that was, all the rage. And she is leaving this play because she got cast in another musical called Suffs that's coming out. And she is phenomenal too. And she kind of stole the show. Scott is Scott. I mean, I had never seen Scott in anything but Quantum Leap. I saw him live once on stage with Don talking about, but that was at Brian's convention at the Leap Back 09. So it's been a million years. I've never seen Scott perform in anything. So this was the first time, not only that I've seen him perform live in something that wasn't Quantum Leap, it's also the first time I've ever really heard him sing. It's the first time I've ever really seen him perform anything, honestly. And he was fantastic. He was utterly fantastic. And it's funny, I guess, when you guys watch the Q&A, he talks about, because there's so much going on stage where they'll have like something in the foreground, like where Scott is talking to someone that's like a like a Charlie Rose, like talking about the connector and the history of the connector and the proud. And they'll go like to snippets of that interview, and then they'll go over here on the stage and they'll show what Hannah's character and the other main guy, I wish I knew his name. We should have gotten the cast list, huh? But so they're talking about it here, but in the foreground, even though the spotlight's not on them, Scott is still like mock talking to the interviewer. But it all looks like it's still going on. And then they suddenly go to him and he just picks right up, out loud with another part of the interview. And that's just a small portion of sort of the visual and audio choreography that's going on throughout this entire show. And that's why I say it's not like anything I've ever seen before. And again, I'm used to opera, where a lot of opera is what they call park and bark, where all the action stops, all the plot stops, and then you have an aria that goes on for, 7 or 8 minutes. So this is not that either. You're not going to sit there and look at your watch and say, okay, is this one over yet? Yeah. Can we get to the good aria? I mean, all of it's really good. And there are some numbers that are more musical than others that are like really like the entire cast gets out on stage and they have these big choreographed numbers with a lot of bombastic, like really swingy, catchy tunes. And just, it runs the gamut, man. It's a fantastic show.
Wow. So then how long after the show ends does the Q&A start? Is there like an intermission for that part?
Only about 10 minutes, Sean? It wasn't that long.
I was gonna say like 5.
Yeah.
Because when the show ended and everybody took their bows, that's when John and I sprung up, because we got to figure, okay, we got to set up a camera now. We got to figure out what are we going to do. So I just ran up to that table that I saw, that I had mentioned before, that I saw was empty, and there was no one in that corner. I wasn't interrupting anybody's anything. And the guy saw me go up there and he saw what we were doing and he just gave me the nod. So we just set up a little tripod with John's phone, and I was able to get a nice, clear, unobstructed view. It was a little further away than I would have liked. And we were right underneath one of the speakers where the microphone sound was coming out. So the only real issue that I had was that the audience wasn't mic'd. So you couldn't really hear what the audience was asking, but a lot of times Jay or Scott would reiterate the question before they answered it. So they even solved that problem for us. Now, you got to tell me, Albie, because I don't know what we recorded. I haven't seen any of it. And then I just saw, before we got on mic, about 10 minutes, that you finally posted the Q&A on our YouTube channel, Quantum Leap Podcast, youtube.com/the Quantum Leap Podcast. You're on it now. I don't know why I'm promoting it while you're watching it, but that doesn't look like the video that John and I shot. It looks too close.
No, that was Suzanne, right?
Right? Was that Suzanne's video?
Did you save the day on that?
So well, about that.
It is. It is a super edit. A lot of people, I requested sources and they sent me sources. And there's actually what we're going to do in a couple minutes here is, for anybody who hasn't seen the Q&A yet or just wants to see it again, because come on, it's Scott. We're going to play it. This is going to be the special edition super edit, because Suzanne had sent me her recording of it, and I had about 5 different angles that I pulled into my project, and I forgot Suzanne's, which is a great second row close up. So this edit you're going to see in a couple minutes is even a better edit of the Q&A. So why don't we go to that? But so after that, I want to talk about the Q&A itself, and like everything you did after, and going to see Back to the Future and cool. All the things from that evening. But for those of you who want to see it again or haven't seen it, we're going to go right now to the Scott Bakula Q&A hosted by J.D. Schwartz. And we have some special angles of Christopher D. Philippus himself asking a question of Scott Bakula. So be on the lookout for that. All right. Let's go to the Scott Bakula Q&A.
Since 1992. So, no, I'm not going to say that. Enough. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jay, and I worked with Scott since June of 1986. So welcome, and thank you for coming. And I know a lot of you, but I'm sure more of you know me than I know you. We have a lot of out-of-towners here and a lot of people from out of the country, right? So I know we have people from Germany. Where else do we have? From what other country? Okay, just Germany. And I know we have from South Carolina and North Carolina and Long Island. And, Florida. Where? Pennsylvania.
Chicago.
Missouri. Well, you know Scott is from St. Louis, right? Arizona. Very
Michigan.
cool. Well, before Scott comes out, they gave me some stuff to tell you. So following our little talk back here, we're going to exit the theater, and right outside there's a big red thing, the same picture that's on your program. And we're going to be there to take pictures, and Scott will sign whatever you have. And you're going to form a line, and they're going to come up to you, the ushers will come up to you, and they'll have a little sticky for you to write your name on. So we're going to do this like we have done this for 30 years. I'll stand there, I'll take your phones. We used to have real cameras.
Yes.
I'll take your phones, and I'll take the picture. He'll sign, and then you gotta exit the theater because, I mean, like, you can't stay and hang out in the lobby because they have to prepare the theater in the lobby for this evening's show. Not only the Connector, but their other show is the White Chip. Yay. Okay. Please let the doors, the team at MCC will be here to assist you. After the meet and greet, please exit out to 52nd Street. So they're saying, get the hell out of here. So, all right, well, Scott should be out in a minute. But does anybody have any questions?
How are you feeling?
Absolutely. You guys have been with us since the beginning of Quantum. And that's why we're doing this, because you've always supported us. And as many of you know, we always give. So the reason why we want to go so quickly is because, again, as many of you know, or some of you do not know, we don't want to leave anybody without an autograph or anybody without a picture. We never left anybody without a picture or an autograph. Okay? And next, someone had a question.
I just said, how are you feeling? Your neck.
I'm feeling good, thank you. Thank you for asking.
That was bad. It was bad.
Thank you. I had neck surgery in September, so that's what she was referring to, and a bunch of you have asked me because you follow me on Instagram, which is kind of creepy, but okay. I'm good with that. So. You know, this is also special for me because in the audience, I have my 3 college roommates.
Oh.
We met in 1976, and we were always called the 4 of us. And the 4 of us are here. I don't know where Steve and Laura went. Huh? Steve and Carmelo were roommates, and then Paul and I were roommates. And all of us had not been together in, I don't know how many years, but 10, 15, 20 years. So it's exciting for me because this is the first time they get to see what I do and how I do it. So I'm really excited. So, any other questions for me? No? Good. Okay. Where the hell's Scott? He's really slow. He's just really slow. No, he'll be out here soon. Well, they're checking. Okay. I'm not going to sing. I'm not going to dance, but So I'm vamping here. Can anybody give me something?
Talk about Murray.
Talk about Murray. Oh, Murray. Murray's my dog. And thank you. They came to me this afternoon, before you went in and gave me a gift. They said, don't worry, this is not for you. This is for Murray. I was vamping and it's like that.
So you built that?
Oh no, an original leaper gave this to me while the show was still on the air.
What? An original leaper? Is that
Well, a
an original?
leaper from when we were back then, when the show was actually airing. The
You better sit down. You don't do well when people ask you questions.
was airing.
All right. That's cool.
Well, it makes noise.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming to the show.
Thanks for doing it.
I like it. I like it. Wait a minute. Miss you, Dean.
Yes.
Yes?
Questions?
Hi.
Hi.
How'd you like the show? How'd you like that band up there?
Very
Amazing musicians. Jason Robert Brown, Daisy Prince, Jonathan Mark Sherman. What a talented group of creative people to be around, and then to get on the stage with this talented group of this cast is just amazing. Led by Ben and Hannah, it's a real joy for me. I'm never going to enjoy it because it's a special show, I think. I don't know. Questions? Am you going to ask?
Yeah,
I'm
asking. Well, this gentleman over here.
His arm has been up since I walked.
Talking to him, so just calm down.
I'm surprised he's me.
They like talking to me and giving Murray a present. Lisa brought Murray a present today.
We did. Nina Barber too. Not just me.
All right.
This
Yes, sir.
gentleman.
Yeah, I just want to say it was an amazing show. Yourself and the rest of the cast, fantastic, and the music was phenomenal. And I just would really like to know what's the process of it? What spoke to you about this play, this musical, and how did you come to be involved in it?
I don't know if everybody heard the question is how did I get involved with the show and what's the process involved. In August, first of all, I've been trying to get back here to do something for a lot of years. I was in New Orleans for a lot of years, which was great, but there's not a lot of time between the ends of seasons to get involved in anything. So this kind of an opportunity didn't exist for me for the last 15 years or so. But I've been looking anyway. And in August, my agent called me and said, Bernie did it. And I somehow knew exactly what it meant. Bernie is a casting director here and producer of the show, and this is his theater along with some other beautiful people. And he had gotten me an offer to be in the show. And I said, okay, well, tell me about the show. And he said, well, it's a Jason Robert Brown musical. And in my head, I'm saying, I'm in. But you can't say that, but I'm saying it in my head. And Daisy Prince is directing it. I said, I'm really in. And then Jonathan Mark Sherman. I didn't know him at all. But they sent me the script, and I read it. Actually, my wife read it first because I always kind of get ready to read something, and she's like reading it as soon as it shows up on the computer. And she absolutely loved it, but didn't say anything. And I read it and listened to the music as I was reading it, which is how I like to read musicals. The script, as you witnessed, it's just, you don't see a script like this for a musical that I know of. Maybe somebody else knows a script that's this dense and deep and rich and full of so much to think about that gets translated into the lyrics and then is woven throughout the whole show. It's just so good. And so I was immediately just, I would love to do this. And I said, well, they're waiting to get this kid Ben. I'm not sure he's going to be available. and he's this great guy, and everything just worked out, and here I am, and the timing was perfect. And the hardest part was waiting from August to start rehearsal in December. So I had to wait. I just said, I'm not going to start learning it for a while, and then I dug into it, and it's a lot to learn. So happily I have some time. I needed it. Thank you for that question. Who else? Somebody had a question? Yes?
Way back when they were settings, my sister got me the song of you covering, singing Somewhere in the Night.
Yes.
I'm curious, throughout your career, how much singing has been like a core part of who you thought about who you are versus just...
Yeah, I mean, I'm a musical theater person first and foremost. I came to New York in 1976, and I did musicals predominantly. I did a few plays, but I did musicals in and around New York City and around the United States for the next 10 years. And then I left and went to LA to do another musical. So music is just, I mean, that's what I love, to be able to do a musical on stage. And I love live theater the most. So I've been able, very fortunately, to work music into a lot of shows that I've done. Going back to Gung Ho, I did an Elvis impersonation in one episode. And then I did it, as you all know, well, I did it in Eisenhower and Lutz. I did some singing in Eisenhower and Lutz. And then Quantum Leap, I did a ton on that. And then I didn't do a lot for a while, but I come back to New York and I did Romance and things. So I kept my singing up, and I kept my desire to want to sing. Even as I've grown older, I want to sing more. So, and I've always said, I want to end my journey, performing journey on stage. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Another TV series. I'm seeing you every week.
You miss seeing me every week? Well, that's so sweet. She seems so real and genuine. Unlike somebody else who's ever been there. Okay, all right. Thank you. Ignore him. We all do. For 38 years. I can't say that I miss being seen every week because I'm still being seen every week because people, I'm on all the time. That's the difference in the world now is you don't disappear when you go, you can find me. But in terms of original things, I've got my eye on a couple things and I'm working on some things. So I haven't given it up, but I'm a little pickier than I used to be, and I'm not getting any younger, and I had a great. That's what friends are for. But anyway, so I'm not. You never know. You never know. That's the answer.
And he's basically been a character this season on Only Murders in the Building.
I don't know. You never know. They've been talking about me, so it's been a surprise to me. So why not have to be surprised a lot of ways? Who's got anybody? Yes. Go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you for entertaining me personally for 35 years. And today, because I never thought I'd get to see you do a live performance and sing in person. So thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I have great fans, as you all know. You're great people.
Hi. Just getting back to you identifying as a song and dance man. Your time on Quantum let you do so much when it came to music, like you said. Are there any parts of that series that you can remember that stood out as highlights for you to be able to do that stuff, like favorite things that you were able to do?
Yeah, I mean, I had so many opportunities on Quantum to do so many different things. The things that stood out, obviously, La Mancha episode was one of my favorites. And Don directing it. It was John Cullum. That was a dream, and then just the whole parallel between Al and Sam, and the parallel between Don Quixote and Sancho in that musical worked beautifully. And I got to do, I was a beauty pageant contestant and got to sing, and Dean and I had fun singing together. I got to write some songs on the show. I just had a blast, and they were so willing to go there. And kept kind of opening opportunities for me to do more music, and people seem to love the music. So, we loved it. And Deborah Pratt was big into the music. She was a big pusher for that too.
Awesome.
Thank you. Up in the balcony. Yes.
Hi. So for this performance, for this show, was it all on the page for you? Was it all in the music, or were there inspirations that you took from real life figures in the news business, or things historical that you drew on for your performance?
It's kind of a combination. I mean, there's so much to draw on. How does it show up in the balcony?
Oh,
okay, good. There's a lot to see up there. You're getting all the floor stuff and all that stuff. Okay, because I haven't seen the show from up there, so I've seen some rehearsals up there. But you know, Daisy had done so much research, and she said, you know, I'll give you as much as you can handle. So she kept sending stuff, and one thing would lead to another, and that would lead to a question, and you dig up another article, and you read about Tom Wolfe, you read about, you know, Talisa, all these people that they talk about, but then you read about the very few women writers that were around that were famous, and we talk about, you know, the handful of them in the show. So there was all of that, and then, you know, you get into the creative space and you're working with people and you're working with the material, and you never know exactly where it's going to take you. Yeah, if you're lucky enough to have a good director who can help shape where you want to go, because again, there's so much material in the show, it's so rich that you can go, you know, I can do a different show almost every night for the rest of the run on certain lines and try different readings all the time to just see what feels right. And again, the gift of good writing is that you can continue to experiment, but the meaning and the sense of it all stays all the time. So it's a dream to be in something that's like, oh, I'm bored with this show already. We've done 20 shows, and I'm not at all bored. I'm kind of wired every night and excited about saying the words and being a part of the music. And it's so inspirational to me as a performer, and I hope it translated comes across footlights. Footlights in ancient Elizabethan times were little candles, and they would light them on the edge of the stage. Back then, women couldn't be in the shows. I'll tell you more later. Yes.
Hi, Scott. I love you so much.
Thank you.
I can't believe I'm here right now. My question to you is: have you watched the new reboot of Quantum Leap? And if you have, what do you think about it? I know you're not going to be part of the series. In my mind, it doesn't have the charm and the humor as the original, and I think that has a lot to do with Dean. But I just wanted your thoughts on the movie.
The question is, what do I think about the new Quantum Leap? So yes, I have watched it. I watched quite a bit of it. Here's what I feel about it. I never knew if I ever wanted to go back and revisit Quantum Leap, because some things are just right, you know. But this is a new time. The kinds of stories that we told, and the pace at which we told our stories, and the simplicity that we told our stories, for the audience that they want to bring in to watch shows now, this is like 2.0. They're revved up, they've got big stories, they've got a lot of action, they've got a lot going on, and so it's different. So I don't compare it to say, oh, well, we were better. It's just the notion was so simple when we did it, and I just don't know that the world, the new viewers that would come to a show like that are interested in that kind of a simple story anymore. And I think that's what the network felt. And I've said this all along. I wish them all well. I'm thrilled that there are so many people working on that show and putting out the message in their version of the message that we did with Quantum Leap, because I do believe in that. I believe in walking in somebody else's shoes. Man, if we could all do that, this world would be a different place. But it's not something that is on my radar to do, and they've been generous in asking me to participate, and I politely decline. But thank you for that. Thank you. Yes.
It's fabulous to see you live again on the stage. Thank you. We'd love to see you back home in St. Louis on stage. Perhaps love letters again or something would be wonderful if you could find that in your schedule.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm from St. Louis. My mom's in St. Louis, and that's all she talks about. When are you coming back? When are you going to do the Muni? When are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? And, I always say if the right show comes along, I'll be at the Muni, or I'll be somewhere else in St. Louis. But so far that hasn't happened. But thank you, though.
It's nice.
I appreciate it.
One person from St. Louis.
Two. Yes. I know. All the way in the back row. Come back. Yes.
Okay. I was just curious.
1, 2.
I was just curious how much you kept in touch with Dean Stockwell after Quantum Leap ended.
How much what?
How much you kept in touch with Dean Stockwell after Quantum Leap ended.
After Quantum Leap? We stayed in touch for years. I've been on his journey, and he's been on my journey, and we've been on each other's radar for years. There's nobody like Dean. He was a unique, beautiful human being. He taught me a lot about a lot of things, and I'm grateful to him. And as I said before, I miss him, but he made the world a better place, and he certainly made our work space just a great place to be a part of. And he joined us on Enterprise for an episode. We had a ball doing that, and he did an episode of NCIS New Orleans. And so I kept an eye on him. Not a good enough eye, but I did the best I could. Right behind you.
Hi Scott, I'm coming all the way from Germany. Totally good to see you live on stage.
Yes. Thank you for coming all the way from Germany.
Yeah. Are there any plans of you going to Europe, to England? I saw you in that play in London a couple of years ago. Are there any plans to do a stage, a musical in Europe?
Not at the moment, but anything could happen. The same guys at the Chocolate Factory called me about a year ago and wanted me to come do something. A Jason Robert Brown musical, to be quite honest, and it didn't work out timing-wise. So you never know. So, keep looking. But at the moment, there's nothing. No, not active.
I've listened to all the soundtracks from Quantum Leap and Romance. Is there the possibility of a soundtrack from this play?
Let's see. You never know. How's that for an answer? There's always a possibility. So that's what I'm allowed to say. So you can read into that anything you want. Yes.
I was most fascinated when you said
Where are you from?
I'm also from Germany.
Everybody's from there. A few folks from Germany, which is fantastic.
And I was fascinated when the spotlight was on somebody else and you were in the background talking animatedly but without words. And I want to know if there was script for it or if you make it up every evening.
A little bit of both. No, there was no script for it. But she's asking what happens when we're miming scenes with other people. I've got all that stuff with Brian Lamb in between the lines while Ben's singing, and then there's the party scene while they're down here and we're all talking. And so it happens a lot over there singing. Now what? You kind of find a way, you ad-lib things to each other. You can't talk, but you can kind of read lips and get a sense of what people are saying. And then you play off of each other every night, and it leads you to all different kinds of places. Fergie and I tonight we're talking about why he didn't travel more, and I told him that the new Matisse that was set up at Plimpton's house, and he said, "Oh, how do you know about art?" And I said, "Well, my wife took me to Paris a couple of years ago, and I said, do you ever travel?" "No, I don't travel." And his wife doesn't like him to travel. And no, she wants Cheryl, it's her name. So anyway, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. So it's relatively on topic, but it's not scripted. We couldn't impose on Jonathan to write stuff for that too. Two more questions.
So I told you they're very, very bossy here. We got 2 more questions, and then we're all going to go outside, line up, and we'll do photos. And, conversation can still happen while we're doing photos. But quickly. So.
Okay. I have another show.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
So you pick the last 2 questions. I'm not going to.
Okay.
You be the bad guy.
Oh, I be the bad guy. So I'm going to go with you because you've had your hand up for a long time, and then I'm going to go with you. Okay, so you first.
My brother was the art director on Women of a Certain Age.
No way.
And he talked about what a unique experience that was compared to other shows that he did because of the camaraderie, not just in the art department, but with the talent and everything. It was all a big family. And I just wondered if that kind of translates with being a new musical and creating something new, if that collaboration felt the same way here.
This has been a great collaboration right from the beginning. And I have to say that everybody here in New York has been so great to me. And sometimes people come in, I've been the New York actor, and people from another, like LA or somewhere, come in to do something. And there can be resentment, and there can be a little bit, you know. And they've done the show a couple times before this, and I wasn't involved in it. But they've been just so gracious to me. And one of the reasons why I love theater so much is because you have a chance to really rehearse and work and create together. And that forms a certain kind of bond that you don't get in other mediums. Very rarely in other mediums, because we don't rehearse in television. You get one rehearsal on set before they mark the cameras, and then you go. So that part of the experience, rehearsal, for me is the best part of what I get a chance to do. So thanks for that question. And this, yeah, it's a really, really good group. Thank you. How's the seat go? Were you sitting there?
Yes.
Do you hate sitting in the corner? You can be honest.
I got the last 3 tickets.
Oh. Okay, all right. You can't complain, man. Don't complain. But how were the seats?
I'm excited to see it again.
You should go in diplomacy. That's what you do.
My question has to do with the topic of the show. It's kind of interesting to see in 2024 when the media organizations that were around in the 90s are either don't exist or are like smaller versions of themselves. Any thoughts about just why now? Why this kind of story?
Well, it's oddly and sadly relative right now, the show. It was conceived by Daisy, I think she said 13 years ago. So it didn't come out of anything that's happened in this country politically or corporate-wise at all. It came out of her mind and some events, obviously, that happened in real life that she pulled from. I think that it's oddly relevant, and I think that it's special to be involved in something that has this kind of presence about it. And it's frankly kind of eerie that so many things that we're talking about, and so many things that, that we're talking about stuff circa 1996. And, we're all living in this world still where we're trying to get, why are we still talking about a glass ceiling for the presidency of the United States of America? I mean, we're so far behind so many countries around the planet. It's ridiculous. But here we are. And so that center of the story about this young gal who wants to just get a story published, it seems so, well, why couldn't you do that? That didn't happen then. And sadly, how many women are running magazines? A few now. A few. But it's not easy. It's still not easy. The diversity issue is in our face and needs to be in our face until we get it right. And this is a show that can help push that a little bit, I hope. So I thank you all. Thank you.
So again, just to remind you, when you exit the theater, you'll create this line. There'll be people out there to help you. They'll have little stickies so you can write your name on the sticky pads. And we'll take pictures and sign all at the same time.
Yes.
And again, thank you in advance for working with us to make that all happen quickly, because as Scott said, he does have another show to do tonight.
And I don't want to offend anybody by putting a mask on, because I got to get to opening night. And that's Monday night, and after Monday night, then I just shut it.
Thank you guys.
all.
And we're back. Wow. That was a super special edition, super bit letterbox collector's edition, Dolby Digital. That was the edit, including Suzanne's second row angle here and there. So I really enjoyed watching it. I have to admit, Serenity and I didn't watch it very soon after because I kind of wanted to. But she was like very upset that we weren't able to go. So she was like, I don't want it yet. Give me a couple days. So
That's fair.
It was nice when we finally did see it. And with all those extra angles, I think you really feel like you're there. And I was surprised because, I hadn't watched it for a few days after, and I didn't know, Chris, that you got to ask a question. How did that come about?
Well, I mean, JD invited us there specifically, to record it. So he said to me, you're going to ask a question, right? And I said, yeah. This is what was weird about this, because we didn't really get much description of what was going down. So I had weird visions in my head that we would get, at least before the show or something, a little bit of one-on-one time with Scott to just do a quick and dirty, like maybe 5 minutes for the pod. But no, I mean, it was just going to be the Q&A. I said, oh, okay, well, then in that case, phew, thank God, because I don't know what to ask Scott. And as you can see there, I pretty much pulled out the only question that I could think of that would relate to this event, which was about all the musical stuff that he got to do on Quantum, being a song and dance man. And you saw him talk about that in the Q&A, how he started on the stage and he always wanted to end his career on the stage as well. Not that his career seems to be going anywhere anytime soon, but he's thrilled to be back on the stage doing this kind of stuff. So it just was a natural and probably the lowest hanging fruit I could think of to try to dovetail, the Legacy Quantum with what was going on in front of me that day in that moment. And thank God he only gave me the one question, because I would have been like, Albie already asked you that. Albie already asked you that. Every fan in the world asked you this. So it was nice to have the one and done thing, but I hope that was a good question. I hope that it was.
Yeah. I think it was really good, and it's unusual because when I watch it, you seemed a little nervous, and I know you to be the not nervous person because I mean you do videos, you do audios, you got thousands of people watching you, listen to you every week. But I guess maybe it's different when they're all there live in person, and it's Scott.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what it is. I was just very self-conscious about the question I was asking.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was more self-conscious than it was nerves. And I wanted to put it in a way that was succinct. And I think, as I always do, I tend to go on just a little too long. And I think I did it with the question too. But I finally came to a stop with a question mark somewhere in there.
Well, yeah, you did really good. You weren't that guy, because I'm always scared to be that guy, the one that everybody's like, oh, why don't they just stop? What are they talking about? Their aunt saw an episode once about what? I never wanted to be that guy. And I kind of had that experience when I asked a question live at in San Diego of Kevin Smith. So like while you're asking the question, you're like, oh, I don't want to be that guy. Am I that guy? And you don't know until afterwards, and you rewatch it if you're that guy or not. So
well, one thing that you might have noticed, I was wearing a blazer and a nice shirt, and I was toying with the fact of, okay, do I go as a fan or do I go as a journalist? Because representing our show. And I chose the journalist angle because I said, I'm going to be meeting the promoters. I'm going to be meeting JD. I want to go in there not with my Get Leaping t-shirt on, even though I so wanted to go in there with my Get Leaping t-shirt on. But I said, no, we're representing something a little bit bigger here. And it helps put me into gear because I was a journalist for a number of years where I'm in like more of a professional mode. So it helps me focus, the Chris that I'm going to be at that event. So maybe if I was dressed a little bit looser, I would have had a little bit more of a succinct and, casual air of my question.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I no, it was great. And it was cool that somebody actually got it on video. I think it was
Stacy, I think got it. Stacy from the TV Talk podcast.
Yeah, Stacy was able to film it, so I was able to put that in the super edit, which was cool. What else? Oh, maybe I should have pushed the lanyards more. Maybe I should have got us lanyards. You might have got better access to the sound equipment if you had a lanyard. Those will always get you in anywhere. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I had JD, so if that didn't do it, I don't know what would have.
Jay is such a nice guy. I was wondering, that brings it up. What's the dress code for like Broadway shows like that? Because I gotta have an outfit for me and Serenity when we go up in March.
I basically went like, well, actually, I was gonna say like just office casual is probably fine. I think that's probably where most people were. Just a dress shirt and jeans is fine. But I actually stepped it up a little bit because I didn't really know. So I went to like going on a date level. So I also put on a nice pair of slacks.
Well, you kind of were going on a date. I saw those pictures with you and Christopher. That was pretty romantic, if I do say so myself.
Those pictures were not supposed to be for public view. But actually, when I got up there, I was like, because I was thinking kind of the same thing. I was like, okay, it's going to be like a press junket where he'd be sitting in like various media outlets would get a few minutes each. That's kind of what I was like, the best case scenario I was thinking. And same thing. I was like, okay, so what do I want to ask Scott Bakula? Because you don't want to ask the thing that everybody's asked. You don't want to ask like the obvious, what's your favorite lead, blah blah blah. So a lot of times, you've invited me to come on to interview people on the show or people behind the show, and I, a lot of times it's scheduling, but sometimes I'm just nervous. Like I don't like, so I'll politely decline. But this one I was like, okay, I do have one question, like, and I'm going to ask this question. Like, if I don't do anything else this trip, I'm going to ask my question.
And I can guarantee you that no one has ever asked Scott this question.
That's what I was going for. So the Q&A, I'm like, okay, I'll like, it's just, raise your hand basically during the Q&A. And Chris asked his question. I was like, awesome. And I didn't know how long, it was going to go for. I knew it was going to be about half an hour, but I don't know. I didn't know how flexible that was going to be. So over the course of the Q&A, and you heard it when you watched the thing, like there were a lot of people there from like out of town, like from Germany, and like who traveled much further than me. And once they said that they were kind of trying to wrap it up pretty soon, and maybe the next only 2 or 3 more questions, I didn't raise my hand anymore because I'm like, I'm not going to take this one chance from someone who came from Europe to ask their question for my weirdo question, and I'll know I'll see him in the meet and greet. So that was my mission. I didn't foolishly. I didn't think ahead to bring something for him to sign. I'm like, well, I'm just going to record the question. That's my thing. That's my takeaway. So we did. We went through the line. And I don't want to shortchange anybody else's going through the line story, but that was like, so we got through the line and I don't even know if I want to say what it is. I sent you the clip, right?
I think I'm going to insert it right here.
Yeah. Somebody did record it.
Yeah.
You got one more than everybody else.
Don't forget yourself.
These are you guys are from Quantum Leap Podcast.
Oh, cool. How you doing? Beautiful to meet you, sir. Great to meet you, too. I have a question. Yes. Okay, so I saw this on a behind the scenes like years ago, and nobody believes me. Did you used to say like height on the set, and then everyone on the set would say height back?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, that is true.
Thank you.
That's Michael Watkins' thing. Because there was a conversation about
it is true.
The difference
I told you it's true.
Height and height. Height with a TH, right?
Okay.
So he would say, no, it was talking about the camera height was different than the height. Anyway, but that was true.
Okay, who's first? Okay.
My name is Chris. C-H-R-I-S? Yes. You want to know?
Let's do the silver.
My name is
I'm not in your way, am I?
Yes. So, there's a statement.
Thank you so much.
Oh, God, please. I can make it louder.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it so much.
Wonderful show, by the way. Thank you. Thank you. Look at that Wonder Twin house.
Oh, sweet.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you.
That was an
Right?
interesting question.
I told you no one has ever asked Scott that question before. I was not lying.
I wish that, like, and maybe I could have pushed it and gotten a few more because clearly he had more to say about it, but he also didn't want to like hold up the line too much. So yeah, if you can use your connections, Albie, and get a more elaborate response, I'd appreciate it.
I think Scott talked about that somewhere, sometime, because that did ring a bell. Where did you hear that originally?
It was on like a behind the scenes. It was when the show was on the air. I don't remember what season, but it was a behind the scenes of Quantum Leap, like special thing on NBC, and yeah, so however many years ago, and I mentioned it to Chris a while ago because on the podcast network that I am a part of, the Infinite Potato Alliance, in the group chat, there's a show called Moon Show, which is a podcast about the show For All Mankind, right?
They haven't asked me yet. I've been hinting like crazy, but
are you okay?
I love Moon Show. Yeah, I checked it out because Chris was on it, but now I listen to it all the time.
So similarly to the height thing, like someone will say Moon Show in the chat. It was a Moon Show. Mm-hmm. So I mentioned it to Chris. I was like, yeah, so could you ask, do you know about this? He's like, no. He's like, could you ask Matt about this? Like, Matt's like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, this has really happened. I promise you it's real. So this is my Baculean vindication.
Suzanne, how about we talk about your meeting Scott and getting stuff signed in line story next?
And did you have a question, Suzanne? Were you able to ask one?
Well, it's funny because I didn't realize that the question that you had asked was actually you until I saw the video. And I wanted to, and that actually, I've always had a question I've wanted to ask him, and I don't know if I want to give it away now because Albie said that maybe next time we have him on the show, we'll ask him it. But it actually, I did not get to ask my question because I ran out of time. But your question actually made me think of something that I've always wanted to ask him. So it's funny. I didn't realize until I saw the video, and I went, oh, so he's the one that asked that question that reminded me. I'll tell you later, though.
Okay.
Of the question that I've always.
This must be some question.
Yes. And I don't think anybody's really asked them before because obviously I've never gotten my answer. So.
Very cool. And you got to meet Scott and get a picture?
Yes, I did. And I, because kind of like Chris had said, we didn't really have a whole lot of time to do anything other than just it was real quick, everybody get a picture. But I do appreciate the fact that, Jay said, nope, we will never, we're not leaving until everybody gets a picture and gets an autograph. So I didn't want to, take advantage of that. So I would have liked to have maybe gotten a couple things signed, but, I actually brought a few different things because when I've gone to conventions before, I would go up a few times or, even pay if it was, if you had to pay or whatever, I would pay for, a few different things to get signed. And I'd actually brought several different playbills from pretty much every thing that he had done on stage. And I would have, even if I didn't get him to sign it, I would have liked to have shown it to him to say hey, look, I got this, from whether it was Romance, Three Guys Naked from the Waist Down, Anyone Can Whistle, Marilyn. I had like all those. So, I'm sure he would have been like blown away to see those things, but obviously wouldn't have a lot of time. So, I just got my little pamphlet, the little connector thing, got that
very nice
signed.
All right.
Yeah, so
we'll look at that closer during our Leap and Look segment.
Yes. But we and then of course we didn't all, my friend and I didn't get in line the same time that John and Chris got in line. So we kind of like were snaking through the line and going like, hey, every time we passed each other. But when we got up to see Scott, Jay was taking everybody's cameras and taking the photos himself. Now, whether that was just him being extremely nice because he would take like 3 or 4 pictures just to make sure it came out, or whether, it was him just, I loved it. I love the fact that he made sure everybody got it done. Like it made me, happy that that like he was true to his word, that he made sure that everybody got an autograph and a picture. So
yeah,
he was incredible the whole time.
It's got to be difficult for Scott because he wants to spend time with everybody and give them individual treatment, but he also wants to spend time with everybody. So he's got to make it short to get it done. He's really good at that, it seems, from the videos I've seen.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to give you kind of an indication of the time pressure he was up against, and I think it speaks volumes, because you saw that Jay said that at the very beginning of the chat that they're doing this for Quantum Leap fans specifically because he said, you've all been with us since the beginning, and we felt like this is something that we needed to do for you, and we're so happy to have you here along with us still. And that performance was just the matinee performance. Then Scott did the Q&A, then he did the meet and greet, and then he had another performance that night. I don't know what, maybe 7 o'clock curtain, 8 o'clock curtain. So, I mean, he really just put himself out there. I think by the time we got out of there, it had to be close to 4, 5. I don't know, but it was later.
Yeah.
Because the show started at 2. So, but so what I'm saying is he had like maybe 2 hours before he had to be back on stage.
Right.
And he he stuck it out to the end. There was not anybody that left that theater without a photograph and an autograph if they wanted one. And that just speaks volumes about Scott.
And a nice chat and like a nice memory, because it could have been like assembly line with it too. Like we just sign it and move on. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But no, he had like that's a class act. Like that's how someone's been in the business for a while. It's like they know how to do that.
One might say he's
make
a
everybody
decent
feel
fellow.
special.
And I wanted to add to that because my friend Ray, who is not a huge Scott Bakula fan. I mean, he went there because I needed a friend to come with me, and he asked me if there was any homework I should give him before we went that would make his experience more, to make it better, to make it I told him, like, he said, should I watch any Quantum Leap episodes or whatever? I said, watch Genesis parts 1 and 2 and the Leap Home parts 1 and 2. So he did that the night before. And he said that he's like, he said, I see what you see in him. He's like, he said, he's not like the most handsome man in the world. He said, but like, he's got this way about him. He said, there's just something about him. He's very kind. He's very, gentle way about him. There's just something about him that's just very nice. And he definitely saw that in him because I told him, I said, that's what Scott is like. I said, because there's a lot of him that he put into Sam. And my friend saw that day, that he got to see it firsthand in the Q&A and meeting him in person. And, he very proudly, got his little signature, got his little autograph and got his photograph with Scott. And he he very proudly put that on Facebook the next day, and so he said he thoroughly enjoyed his entire trip to New York that day. So
Scott, I think kindness and graciousness describes Scott from everyone we've ever talked to that has met him or worked with him. Now, Christopher, we didn't go, Serenity and I, not yet, soon. But as soon as this event was over, I did get like stories from everyone. And this is what I reconstructed in my head. Tell me if I'm wrong. But there was 2 lines of the meet and greet. There was the one for Scott, of course, and then there was the one for you, Christopher, that everyone wanted to get a picture with and a signature of. So tell me your experience in line meeting Scott.
My experience in line meeting Scott. First of all, it was
Scott
great.
met you, frankly.
Yeah.
And if you guys heard me tell this little anecdotal story on the podcast, you're going to hear me tell it again. So, I was just talking to John. First of all, I liked being in the line. We were the last ones out because we had to bring the equipment out. So we were the last, like we were Dio. We were the last in line. Somebody called Mino Palouse. We were snaking around, and I was happy because it was the first time John and I had really gotten to just chit chat. Like we had been like going from the train station, trying to buy equipment, trying to find the theater, and we were like all caught up in sort of the getting there and the setup. So I was just having fun talking to John, and we're talking, and someone says, "Excuse me," and I say, "Yeah," and they say, "Are you Chris?" And I was like, "Yeah, what did I do?" And it turns out that it was one of our listeners. She said, "I recognized your voice." I said, "Oh," and she said, you might know this. My name is Alexis, and I sent you a postcard." And right there, I'm like, okay. She said, "You might remember it had some meerkats on it." And I said, "Yeah, I just pulled that postcard out of the post office box." And as a matter of fact, I pulled it out of the P.O. box like 2 days after Matt passed. It was the first time I had checked everything. So it was just like, it really was prominent in my memory because it was addressed to me and Matt. And she was so sweet. And she said to me, "Do you mind if I get a picture with you?" And I'm like, "You can't be serious." But yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. We'll get a picture together. So we're taking the picture and we're leaning in, we're doing the whole smile thing. And she said, "Oh my God." And I said, "What?" She said, "I'm a little nervous. To be honest, I'm kind of starstruck." And I said, "Scott Bakula's 30 feet that way." And you're starstruck by me? Stop it. But no, she was really sweet. So thank you, Alexis, for, inflating my ego, at the risk of inflating your ego. Yeah. I think that, that was great. Meeting Karen was great. But again, it's just that coming together of the fan community. And this is something that I'm late to in my fandom. I was always a solitary fan. I would go to cons, but I wouldn't really socialize a lot. I would just go see a couple panels that I wanted to see, go to the dealer's room and basically book. Like I wasn't really a fan. I liked what I liked, but I didn't interact with the community. And it was only very, relatively recently that I started to do more of that. And I guess maybe when I started like moderating panels and things like that, because I'd become an author, it opened my eyes to the dynamics that everybody seemed to enjoy, but that I always felt like I was hovering on the outside of. So this, to me, being in that theater with all those Quantum Leap fans and QLP fans, quite frankly, was almost like the best synthesis of that, because it was such an intimate space. We were all there for just that one reason. It wasn't like a big con where you're here to see Harley Quinn and I'm here to see He-Man and whatever. It was just all about Quantum, and it was all about Scott. So everybody was of singular mind. And again, Scott sets the tenor for everything. So there are no dicks. Like, everybody's just genuinely happy to be there. And it just shows in every interaction. So, I mean, that was another like real perk, aside from meeting some QLP fans, aside from seeing people I hadn't seen in years, aside from finally getting to meet John and Suzanne and Karen. It was, it was just like, it was almost like a perfect fan experience.
Is it Edwin? Was that your friend?
Edwin Thrower.
Edwin. Yeah. So just fun fact: the first question asked I believe during the Q&A, I believe that was Edwin who asked that. The guy
Mhm.
who was like, "Yeah, he set his hand up since I walked out." That was him. That was Chris's friend Edwin.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. So he was able to see the show. I was trying to put it together, and I was like, he was waiting at the stage door, and you had an extra ticket that you put your jackets on. Was he not able to go? So he was
No,
there.
no.
Okay, cool.
No, he was there. No, Edwin, he probably had tickets before anybody else, quite frankly. He probably helped print them.
All right. So we'll get your final thoughts and ratings in a bit on the connector. But I want to also talk about what happened after. So you can guys can kind of combine the after the event, because I know you all went to Back to the Future, which was, I think, my idea, and I made you all do this, and I didn't even get to go. But tell me about that and any leap and looks we have to go with that. Chris, why don't you set the stage for post the connector during that evening?
I think this is where everybody's night but mine started to fall down a little bit, because hey, you just had a great time with Scott. Let me take you on a forced march across town. So there is a restaurant that I love in Manhattan. It's called Gabriel's, and I always go there before the opera. It's on Central Park South. It used to be on the west side, right at Columbus Circle, but they've since moved. It's almost like on the east side at this point. But it's still, in my mind, relatively close. So John and I had plans to go, and now Suzanne was there with Ray, and Karen was with us too. And we all, we're going. Do you guys want to join us? And they said, yeah. I don't know if they knew what they were getting into. So they all said, yeah, let's go. So we just start walking. And I'm walking and I'm walking. I'm like, wow, this is much further than I anticipated, because I forgot that we were on 10th freaking Avenue. Like, we were so far west. We were almost, on the West Side Highway.
These are the long blocks, right? These aren't the short blocks. These are the long blocks you're walking.
So we had to walk basically across town and uptown. And, I could tell that they were just like, where are we going? And, we finally made it to Gabriel's.
Wait. So after we walked for what was 10 or 15 minutes, Chris turns around. He goes, so just so you guys know, he goes, don't worry, we're like a third of the way there. At this point, we were like a half a block away.
So I tried.
I gotta ask, was it longer than our walk in Dallas or shorter?
No, that was one of the longest, most harrowing walks of my life. This, I knew exactly where I was going. Okay. So that's we can do an entire different show about that. But it was a great walk, but wow. I mean, you described it perfectly. This is like an origin story of this walk.
Our Dallas walk was something like Lord of the Rings, the whole extended trilogy.
It was totally crazy. Yeah, if Lord of the Rings was a dystopian urban fantasy, but we made it out alive. Yeah, we made it out alive, and we all made it to Gabriel's too. And it was almost like fate, because I'll tell you what, I go there, I don't make reservations because I like to sit at the bar, and it's a beautiful bar. And we get there, and there are 5 seats next to each other right at the bar when we walk in. I said, this was meant to be. We had to go. And Gabriel was there. I was chit-chatting with him a little bit, but it was just nice again to continue that experience now on a more intimate level. Like, I was sitting next to John, Suzanne was sitting next to John, and Karen was, and we were just able to just have a nice talk across the bar, so that was nice. And then Back to the Future awaited. And that theater is not too far from where we were.
Well,
so
don't forget, we did, as I promised, we did drink a toast to Matt.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was a very wonderful dinner. I thank you for that.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I was a little nervous after. I was like, I hope they like it.
But before we move on, what did everybody eat? You got to tell me. Fill in the deets.
I had steak. I had steak, potatoes, and vegetables, mashed potatoes and vegetables. It's really good, medium well.
That's how I like mine.
Oh, and I think I had what was the dessert? I mean, I did have dessert, and I ate the whole thing. I don't really. It's like a cheesecake, I believe.
I was gonna go over cheesecake. Yeah, okay. Suzanne,
I had the the tuna tartare on Chris's recommendation. I
Really?
wasn't super hungry because we just had lunch, and it was it was that, and just like the amazing just house bread that they had. There was like just this assortment of like amazing crusty bread, and bread with like little raisins and nuts, and like it's not just like this just the random whatever. It was, everything was just really good.
That
But
sounds
yes. I mean, I love sushi, so like when I saw that, I was just like, yes, that's that sounds good. I'll try it. And my friend got the was the ravioli. I forget, the spinach ravioli. And he said it was really good. He let me have one, and it was just like melt in your mouth.
Ooh, that sounds good. Chris, what do you have?
I started with the tuna tartare because I love it, and then I had the branzino.
What is that?
Branzino is a fish. Usually comes whole, but at Gabriel's they fillet it for you, and it just comes just the fish itself. It's delicious. It's one of my perennials there. And because I was feeling festive and we had just walked 17 miles, I had 2 martinis. I fell off the wagon a little bit. I've been drinking a lot less lately, but I was just in such a good mood. The first one went down like boop, so I got a second one, and I had a 20 port for dessert. So let's just say I was in a very good frame of mind as we were going back to the Future.
He was primed to enjoy it.
How far was Back to the Future from the restaurant?
3 blocks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's
maybe
not even
5-minute walk.
Maybe 2. You know what? It's by Carnegie Hall.
Well,
the Winter Garden Theater, sort of.
Oh, I know how to get there.
It was, it wasn't as far, but Chris was still apologizing the entire time. First of all, wait, let me back up. When we got out of the restaurant, the temperature had dropped. It was dark now. And I must say, these 2 gentlemen, all I did was say burr. These 2 gentlemen fought over who was going to give me their coat. And usually I would be like, oh no, it's fine. But I was like, you know what? I actually am cold. So sure. So Chris takes his long, like wool, like, trench coat looking pea coat, whatever it was, and like draped it over my shoulders, and then said like, okay, well, you take care of it from there. So here I am, like with the coat over my shoulders, and we're walking, to the theater. And yes, it was, you could tell that Chris had enjoyed his beverages. It was he was being a little silly. He was showing pictures of his dogs, and
I do that anyway.
Yeah, I was like, that's not an indicator.
No, but I mean, he was still apologizing for how far he made us walk, and I kept saying, it's fine. It's fine. Like, you don't understand. Like, when my friend Ray and I go to the city, whether it's Philadelphia, New York, we walk. Like, we almost never take the subway. I mean, especially when we go to Philadelphia, we like never take the subway because it's not that far. We walk from one end to the other all day. We never talk. And then Chris is like, I know, but I'm a people pleaser, and I'm going to just keep apologizing because otherwise I'm going to think that you hate me. And I was like, look, let me put it this way. When I was in high school, after Quantum Leap had ended and all the Quantum Leap books were coming out one by one, and I was reading them as they came out, I would never have thought that one day I would be walking down the streets of New York with a Quantum Leap novelist with his coat draped across my shoulders. And then everyone laughed, and he was like, okay, point taken, and he stopped apologizing.
Yeah. So I'm not usually modeling, but I can get modeling. So.
Well, we got within a couple blocks, and Chris kept walking, and Ray was like, wait a minute, the theater is down that, like, he was like, wait a minute, we're getting close to the theater, and I think Chris is going the wrong way. And
I was following my phone.
Well, yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. You were looking at your phone. You were following your phone.
Yeah.
And I started looking around to see seeing if I noticed anything familiar, because we had walked past the theater on the way there. Mm-hmm. And Chris starts crossing the street, and I look down the one street, and I'm like, there's a theater down there. And like, Chris is like still walking, and like everyone's like, Chris, come back, it's down this way. He's like, what? No, it can't be, my phone says it's this way. And he's like, no, it's my phone. And we're like, no, it's there. He's like, where? And then like finally he's like, oh yeah, I see it. And he's like, I wonder why my phone's dead. My phone's dead.
Yes.
He's like, oh no, the tickets were on there. How are we gonna? And then I'm like, wait a minute. I have a power pack. And then like my friend Ray's like, I have a power pack. And I think John said, I have a power pack. And then and then Chris is like, wait a minute, I do too. We're like, okay, well, we all came prepared. So
yeah, I'll have you know that I kept that power pack on my phone in the theater, and when we were getting up, it popped off and rolled under a seat somewhere. I lost that power pack.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
no.
Oh no.
I got it for like $10 on Amazon. It wasn't that big of a deal.
Whoops.
So, but yeah, no, that was a little scary, but we made it.
Yes, we
made it in time to go to the Back to the Future shop that was right next to the theater. And that in itself, we can do that with the leap and look, I guess.
That'll be scary for me, because like we're coming back on a train and it's not that big of a room. Okay, it's time for leap and look. Wow, you got the shirt.
Yeah.
Do we want to?
Yeah, it's time. Leap and look. Let's show.
Well, no, I was gonna say, do we want to do a review of Back to the Future musical, or we want to just leap and look?
A little bit non-spoilery, because I don't want to know if Marty gets back to 1985 or not.
Back to the Future.
Yeah, Back to the Future. What kind of merch did you pick up throughout the whole day? This is our leap and look time. Suzanne, you're going first.
Oh, what?
You got the shirt. That's
yes,
my shirt.
I got the shirt.
Wow. Cool. So I definitely got to get Serenity one of those. I'll probably get me a matching one. That's $200. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Well,
you're not wrong.
When we went to the shop. Yeah. Chris, what'd you get? Like 2 mugs and like a pin or something?
Well,
and she's like, that'll be $75.
A keychain.
Yeah. So I got this pin because
Ooh,
it's
wow.
like the kind of thing I would put on my denim jacket when I had a denim jacket.
Very cool.
So you can see that. And I got 2 mugs. One's down in the dishwasher actually, but one is like Suzanne's shirt. It's got Doc Brown and the DeLorean and all that. And I got another mug that is just like the Hill Valley Gazette with the lightning strike. It's like the paper. And I go up to the counter and I'm just like, okay. And the guy's like, that'll be $85. I was like, what?
He's like, for what? And then they're like, oh, would you like
for a mug?
And she's like, well, would you like a collectible bag for that too? It'll only be $10.
Like, nope.
It'd be $25 if you don't get it with the other merchandise.
Yeah,
I'm getting the bag. I'm getting the bag.
You know, I tell you, I never felt more like a tourist in my life.
I have to ask, Chris, are the people on the mug the actual actors you saw live that night?
No.
I honestly, even if they were, I couldn't tell you.
I think it was.
Okay, cool.
I'm not sure if they were. They weren't.
I think
I can tell you this. I watch Tubi a lot, and on Tubi, when it goes to commercial, you see a lot of Back to the Future, the musical commercials, and it's not the dudes in the commercial. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I think the merchandise is the London cast. And
okay. Doc Brown was the same guy in the London cast, wasn't it? The guy that was young Frankenstein.
Yeah,
he was on a lot of different.
But there's a little paper in the show that we saw that says that the role of Doc Brown will be played tonight at this performance. It'll be played by Merritt David Jaynes. So it wasn't what's his face?
That guy.
Yeah, that guy.
The guy from everything. Yeah.
It wasn't Roger Bart when we saw. But you know what though? We were was it second row, third row?
Third row center.
You couldn't tell. Like he was that good. Like we were that close, and I saw like video of the other. You can't really. He's that good. Like you can't really tell. I was like you can like the voice is slightly different. The Roger Bart has because I was listening to the cast album. He does like the raspiness of Doc Brown a little bit more. But this other guy that who usually plays Skinner, you cannot tell. Like they have like the same build and everything, and and like, but the actual acting and everything, it's really similar. But anyway, this is my copy from high school, and of course, like we'll yes, and of course I'll do a more close up.
Aww.
Wow.
Yes.
What's that say for the audio listeners?
I will. Yes, I will. It says to Suzanne, keep leaping, your friend in time. Yes. Christy Philippus.
Wow.
Yes. So
I can't wait to see that.
I got him to sign it during the intermission at the Back to the Future musical.
So cool.
Yeah,
so cool.
but
I'm totally jelly.
We did not get a picture together. So
No.
Yes.
But now you have a podcast together.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is-
We're right next to each other now.
Right. Well, you know me and I know Chris. So, oh wait, you met Chris in real life, so never mind. Hopefully, I'll get mine signed when I come up. Chris, will you sign mine?
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see.
So that'd be $25. He learned.
I'll pay it.
He learned his
All
lesson.
worth it. John Irons, do you have a leap and look from that
Sort
day?
of. I did not get. I did get a picture with Scott Bakula, but I didn't. I didn't get anything signed, and I did not get any merch from the Back to the Future store. But I did grab the commemorative Back to the Future water bottle that they were selling for how many? I don't even know how many bucks a pop.
25.
That was this one was purchased for the low price of nothing because it was discarded on a seat.
Ah,
Who
would leave that behind?
Who
would leave that behind?
I saw.
But see, it's supposed to. Okay, so it's like someone left like a legit like commemorative cup, and I commit and it was like just sitting there, and I was like, you know what, they might come back for this. I'm not gonna take it. This was trash. This is trash to them, treasure to me.
I saw that same cup that you were talking about, and I eyed my friend Ray, and he was like, and I mentioned it. I kept thinking about it like all night, and I was like,
right there,
yeah,
right?
and I was like, we should have gotten that cup. He's like, you know what? It wasn't worth getting COVID over. I was like, there is soap exists.
I was thinking, like, if it was me, I'd be kicking myself and like, oh god, I'm now I lost like maybe, yeah. Somebody got a free phone charger though. Somebody got that very handy souvenir.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So and
for the record, I'm gonna say the show was I expect the kind of musical that Chris is typically not a fan of. But it was you could tell like the people on stage were having fun. Like I don't know, like I would definitely see The Connector again. I don't know if I'd see Back to the Future again.
Yeah.
But it was an experience that I would not trade. It is part of this whirlwind, fantastic New York night.
Yes.
And I wouldn't trade it.
Like it or not, Christopher D. Philippus, you got to see Back to the Future again. I'm sorry.
oh no, I don't.
We need an escort. We need an escort into the big city at night.
I can.
He'll drop you off at the door and pick you up like daycare.
Exactly. I'll drop you off. I'll go to Gabriel's and pick you up.
There you go.
But no, I saw enough of Back to the Future. John is exactly right. It's everything that I stereotypically expect of a musical. And I will say that I found the first 2/3 to be a jumbled mess. Like if you didn't know the movie, I don't know how you could follow the play. Maybe that's just me. But the last third, they really, really key in on most of the touchstones of the film, and the score turns more into the film score than the Broadway score. So you really do get swept up by the end because you get that Back to the Future feeling. You don't care what the source is. You're just, you're right there in 1985 in the theater when you were a kid. So I will give it that. It does stick the landing where you walk out in a good mood. So But yeah, no, everything about musicals that give me trepidation and make me not want to go see a musical. Back to the Future is that.
So I love it.
For me,
Yeah.
it also didn't. For me, like the musical style that they chose to go with instead of 80s music or, for the most part, Back to the Future soundtrack music. It was like they did it in like the 50s because it's always mostly set in the 50s. So it was like 50s style music, which I have an eclectic taste. But this particular musical song list was not really my taste. Like Chris said, like the last third. I would say the last half because the big number right before intermission I thought was really good. And none of it was bad, but it didn't hit for me. None of the music was bad.
We'll probably get the soundtrack on vinyl while we're there because Rennie collects vinyl now. Chris, I just thought of this. You don't like that type of musical? I think what you'd like is Spam-A-Lot, which is the Monty Python musical. But
Yeah,
the whole
people told
musical,
me that.
the whole musical makes fun of musicals,
right?
So you might get a kick out of it.
But it's like watching something that's doing the thing that you don't like, but just making fun of the thing you don't like. There's even a song that's the song that goes on too long.
Yep, the song that goes on too long.
Yeah,
the song that goes like this. Different things.
Yeah. So, but
I have been trying to get Chris to watch Hamilton for.
Hamilton.
You know what? I think I might like Hamilton if Hamilton. I think probably has much more kin with the connector than it does Back to the Future.
You really like. I wouldn't recommend it if I didn't think you'd like it.
Yeah,
I think you would.
And like it. Like I said, I have seen musicals that I liked, and usually when I watch a musical episode of something, I turn out to really like it, even though I go and kicking and screaming most of the time. So I have been known to like musicals. I just if I'm going to think of a genre that I want to see first, it's never a musical. That's so.
But Back to the Future, you got to see it. Back to the Future. And Scott Bakula, got to see it.
Albie, I would suggest that if you're going to get it on vinyl, get it from Amazon because they're going to charge you like 3 times as much in that gift shop, and it's the same thing.
Is it the same one?
Yes. If you're going to buy the CD or the book, they have like a making of book. Any of the the media, don't get it there because they're going to charge a lot more for it. Any of the stuff that's exclusive, any of the
it's good to know it's the
stuff,
same.
It's the same. Because we looked at that and we were like, nope, we will get it elsewhere. But that's why we got the T-shirts, because we knew if you're going to buy that elsewhere, it's going to be a knockoff.
Right.
But my sentiments echo both these guys as far as what I thought about the Back to the Future musical. I thought that for a Broadway musical, yes, the special effects were outstanding. I've listened to the soundtrack since at home, and it's growing on me, but at the time it was right from the start I was like, I liked the connector better. I was like, because that stands on its own.
No question.
It doesn't need to it's not just the Back to the Future musical. You already know what it is going in. It's a fun romp. It's something that's it's a nostalgia trip. It's something that you're going to see because you know what it is already. It's the characters are caricatures of themselves. So you're basically watching a giant cartoon show on stage, sort of. So it's fun. But it's not really serious, and it's not supposed to be. But I mean, even the sentimental bits that make Back to the Future so good seemed rushed. They seemed, especially in the beginning, it was just kind of everything that happened up to where Marty goes back in time, it just seemed kind of like a previously on. It was this, this. Okay, he went back in time. Now the musical starts. It wasn't even that's kind of like what Chris was saying. If you didn't already know what was going on, you'd just be like, what just happened? So, but and what Chris said, at the end, everything that happens, the climax of the whole movie, like that felt like Back to the Future, and the special effects make you feel like you are really there, and that is like what you're going to see, like that's why you're going there.
Does Marty's arm start to disappear?
Kinda.
They find ways to make things,
okay.
They find creative ways to make things happen that in certain scenes that I found very creative the way they did it.
Awesome. So before I buy tickets to Back to the Future, were the seats we thought about, were those the best seats in the house?
John and Suzanne can speak to this. I thought that we were just a little too close.
Yeah.
I think that row 5 would have been like the sweet spot.
Yeah.
I think 2 more rows back would have been perfect.
I think for viewing purposes, a couple of rows back probably would have been better. But I can tell you, I made contact with eye contact with Marty McFly several times throughout the show, and at the end, I'm standing up, I'm clapping like, you nailed it. He's like, thank you. And I was and like you saying like the play is like it's not serious. That's entirely correct. Like they spent a lot of time. Like you could like they were trying to make each other laugh on stage. Like Doc Brown got Marty to break a few times during the show. They played it off, but like yeah, and like that's the stuff. Like once you know that's what you're going in for, once you know that this is a silly cotton candy show, then you can enjoy it as such. You know, leave your connector mindset at the door.
Right.
Don't even.
That's a good point, because now that you guys are speaking about it, because I had such a nice time that night, I'm thinking, okay, I'll go again.
I would love it. That would be great. I'm just thinking at 11 years old, seeing Back to the Future, the musical on Broadway, that's going to be something she remembers forever. So I just want to get her the right seat and everything. The shirts. Yeah. We'll do that.
Then I would move a few rows back.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I just tried to get the best ones, so hopefully that worked out. Okay. That sounds like a great night. How did it wrap up? How did the like just right before the credits? How did that go on after you left the theater, Back to the Future theater?
Well, this was the thing. John had a train back to DC. And it was the last train out. And so this is what we decided. Either you're going to make a train or you're not. So if you don't, you can come back to my house and then we'll get you back to the station in the morning, the whole nine. So unfortunately, because we got out, we had 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Well, yeah. So my train out was, I want to say 11:15, and the show ended at 10:35. So, say 5 minutes to get out of the theater.
Yeah.
And actually it's 5 to 10 because it's crowded.
Yeah.
We had to make our way. We were in the third row, so we had to make our way. I had to grab this.
So they were just like, "Bye, see ya."
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, it was a really rushed goodbye.
Yeah.
It was a very perfunctory.
No chance for photos. No chance for hugs.
Didn't even do that. No chance for photos.
No, had we honestly, and the funny thing, Suzanne, had we done that, John wouldn't have made it.
Yes, I understand.
So we're booking it, and Chris is like, of course, like Chris knows, like where to go. He's like, okay, we'll go there. We'll go now. We'll get on the train, and so we get on the train. We get on the subway. It's like 2-3 stops. We get out, and we basically have to run kind of to the other side of Penn Station. And I'm not going to say, like, between the two of us, I would have thought I'm in better shape. I'm a little younger, I'm a little slimmer. Man, you would have thought, Usain De Philippus over here, man. And I'm like, how the hell? Because we're running together, and then he just starts to get ahead of me. And I'm like, okay, I'm starting to peter out. Surely he's going to peter out. So like, no, he's gone.
Uh-oh.
Not like, I mean, I can still see him, but like he's not slowing down. I'm like, what the how? And then I remember, it's like a movie flashback at the beginning of the night. He's like, yeah, I only carry a money clip.
Right.
And meanwhile, I've got this 40-pound bag of equipment. So I'm like, okay, here we go. So we get there. Like I said, I stay in sight, and he's never too far ahead of me. I catch up with him. I'm out of breath. Go downstairs to the train. I get on, and it's maybe 2 or 3 minutes left.
Gosh.
So also not a, we didn't get a sentimental goodbye either. It's like, all right, see you, all right, good to see you. Like looking at each other through the window like a Disney movie.
I was just picturing like the beginning of Home Alone, and they're all running to the airport.
It was that. It was that.
I was thinking the end of a World War II movie with the steam coming out of the bottom of the train, and just like
your
fingers just lingering together as long as possible out the window.
Yes. It was a steam powered train.
Yeah.
I don't know what Chris did after I left. What's your epilogue, Chris?
My epilogue was I just walked, because you left from Moynihan. I just walked back over to Penn. And my train was 10 minutes after that, not even. Where I almost got in trouble was when I got to Jamaica. They didn't really announce where my connecting train was. And I literally found it the minute that it was supposed to leave. I go up, the doors are closed, and I'm right by the first car, and I'm just knocking a little bit. And I guess the conductor saw me because he opened just that door and he let me on.
Aww.
And literally after that door closed, the train started moving. So I got home earlier than I usually do from the opera. So,
wow.
For me, it was pretty seamless.
And the conductor said, "Chris, is that you? I recognize your voice."
Right.
Big fan.
Big fan. So, yeah, no, I mean, it was just an uneventful ride home from the city for me. That's all.
What about you, Suzanne? What about you and Ray?
We just walked back to Penn Station, waited for the train, but of course, by the time we got home, gosh, I mean, I think I got in 2:30, because it's like it took it was probably at that point no express trains were leaving, so it was every stop. So it didn't seem that long, but yeah, by the time we got home and then drove from the station, yeah, I think I got in at 2:30, and in the meantime, my husband was like, "Your dog missed you," and and then she doesn't know what to do without me. She's actually laying at my feet right now, but she wound up peeing on our bed while I was gone, because
wow, that's some anxiety right there. Oh, I hope that was worth it.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Well, meet Scott Bakula. Yeah, anything's worth it.
Exactly. Yes. So yeah, I wound up. My husband stripped the bed, and but I couldn't. We use plastic sheets for the kid and the dog, but I didn't want to put the dog on the bed without the sheets, so we wound up sleeping on the couch that night. Oh well, but it was worth it. It was worth it. And I wound up staying up and chatting with Albie while I was trying to do the laundry, sending him the videos.
Cool.
And
oh nice. Yeah, I was enjoying vicariously through all of you.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yes.
Okay. I think final thoughts and ratings on The Connector, starring Scott Bakula on Broadway. Now extended till March 17th. Link below. Get your tickets. See Scott Bakula live, so you'll have your own story about how you met Scott or saw Scott in person. Anyway, hopefully, Serenity gets to meet Scott. Working on that. Let's start with John. Final thoughts and out of 5 rating for The Connector.
I mean, it's not gonna be surprised. I am raving about this play. I loved this play. I love Scott in it. I loved all of the actors. Phenomenal. The writing was impeccable. I'm gonna give it. I give it 10 Scrabble tiles out of 5.
Ooh, 10 out of 5. Not
it's
bad.
very apropos.
Suzanne, out of 5 rating and final thoughts for the connector. And remember to use objects, silly objects, maybe from the musical itself.
I absolutely loved it. I would go if I could afford it. If I lived even closer, I'd probably go see it 10 more times. So I will give it 10 connector tickets out of 5.
Wow. And Chris, bringing it home.
Oh, I mean, I Splunge. I'm going to say the same thing. And again, I had the highest bar, I think, because I go in prejudiced against musicals, and here we are, and it's just like this phenomenal experience and like nothing I've ever seen before. And I'm thinking like anybody would enjoy this. It's really, really good. It's just a funky, esoteric, well put together, just feast. It's amazing. So I'm going to give it 10 signed mirror image prints out of 5. I don't know because my camera's not on, but if you can see that,
yeah, we can see it.
Yeah,
there you go. And
That
Scott
is
signed
amazing.
That for me. So that's what I got, and I'm going to frame this and hang it up in my library.
Wow, so cool. Doesn't get better than that.
Mm-hmm.
No. So thank you, Albie, for being instrumental in getting this all together. I'm sorry you couldn't experience it with us. Thank you, JD. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, everybody who helped us, really have this experience, because it was, like kind of like a once in a lifetime night. It was like the perfect synthesis of so many things, and just like a cherished memory.
I'm gonna echo that, because like unlike the rest of you guys planned for this. like you made plans. You're like, okay, let's make this, do this. Like, I'm gonna get the tickets. I'm gonna we'll coordinate. This was a beautiful, random, unexpected gift from the universe, and I can't thank you guys enough for having me be a part of it.
You mean
the show in general, actually, the whole Quantum Leap podcast in general, but definitely like that night.
Yeah, I mean, you weren't like sitting there at noon when the tickets went on sale, refresh. Like
I was not.
Oh, it was.
But you knew you were going. That's what I'm saying.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I'm saying, but like I had mentioned that earlier. I was just like, I was shaking when I got the tickets. I was like, oh my gosh. And even then, like when they finally showed up on the screen, there was already ones that were sold out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna get it. So excited. And it was so good, and it was so worth it, and I'm so glad that I got to like share it with friends and meet you guys, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. It was so much fun.
Awesome. That's what makes you cool, John. You don't have to plan ahead. You just go, yeah, I'll hop a train, see 2 musicals in one day, whatever.
Yeah, because that happens all the time.
Right.
Well, now that you know us, you might.
It's my regular Thursday night.
You never know.
I make a lot of plans I can't do, so you never know. You might be going again.
I have to thank you, Albie, for not being able to go so that I could.
No problem. I left the decision to Christopher who gets what. I said, make sure people that want to see this gets to go. So
thank you,
that worked
Chris.
out. Yes.
Thank you, Chris.
My pleasure.
Chris is the man. But before we go, I want to mention I saw Stacy's meet and greet video that she had posted, and I thought it was something really sweet. She had Matt Dale's Beyond the Mirror Image, one of them, signed by Scott, and she was talking to Scott, and she said, this is Matt Dale's book. Unfortunately, he passed away on Christmas. And Scott said, oh, yeah, I heard about that. And when I heard that, I thought, oh, my goodness, Matt would have felt, one, like it was inconvenience and bothering Scott that Scott just heard about it. But it was also cool that after all the hard work that Matt did throughout his life, that Scott heard about that. So it was touching. And I just thought that was a nice little bow on the end of that night from what I saw from afar.
There's a book coming. All right.
That way. Thank you.
Okay.
What is it called?
The book?
Yeah.
This is Beyond the Mirror Image by Matt Dale.
Okay.
Sadly, is no longer with us.
I'm sorry.
He passed away on Christmas. Let there be light. Very sad.
Yeah.
But
You got the book.
amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for being here.
That's the first I'm hearing of this. How wonderful.
I heard it when she said it, and I didn't think to mention it, but yeah, that's exactly what. Yeah, that happened.
But just got saying, "Oh yeah, I heard about that." It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for the Quantum Leap podcast, Quantum Leap After Show, after the connector, I'm Albie.
I'm Chris.
I'm John.
And I'm Suzanne.
And we'll see you next time.